Okay, so thank you. So shall I begin then? First of all, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just start. So first of all, thank you very much, Sadishada, for that wonderful introduction. Actually, I was actually mentioning to you, I think yesterday or this morning, I'm more interested to take another session, which is called Talal Prasthanam, which push technology or self-marketing, so which he was doing now. And I probably can conduct a session as well, which might be better for our students when they grow up and when they start working, they can apply. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a session in two parts, today and next week, which will try to give an introduction to food, culture, and history. So, why the name Aviyal? I hope everyone knows what is Aviyal is. So, when I was thinking about a name for this particular session, the first name came to my mind was Aviyal for obvious reasons. It has got a lot of things in one plate, a lot of vegetables coming together in one plate. And I thought the topics which I'm trying to cover as well um, is a mix of many things. So that's the reason I chose Aviel as the name. Do anyone knows the story how Aviel was created or invented? ആർക്കെങ്കിലും അറിയോ അവിയലിന്റെ കഥ നമ്മൾ കേട്ടിട്ടുള്ള ഏതെങ്കിലും കഥ അറിയോ? If you know, you can unmute and talk.
Yeah, I remember reading my daughter's grade 3 textbook, and in
Yeah.
that it was written that it was made out of some scrapes of vegetables and all. A king was an inspiration for it. He had asked one of his head cooks or chefs to create a dish out of scrapes. I mean, that's what I know. I don't know how much truth is there in that, but then it's there
Yeah.
in textbooks.
Exactly. There are different stories. One is related to Mahabharata when Bhima and Pandavas were basically they were, I mean, means they were Bhima was the head cook during that particular time. They were in exile, and Bhima was making a dish out of the vegetables, and he didn't know how to cook, and he added we stopped the vegetables with boiled vegetables with grated coconut. So that is one of the stories, and another story was one of the, as you were mentioning, one of the Kerala king was asking his head cooks to cook something different. So this is kind of a mythical stories. We don't know whether it's true or not. So as if it is unwritten, then we don't basically cannot confirm it. So that with that note, let me go to some introduction about me. So before that, what I wanted to cover in two sessions is basically about the food culture and history. And what I'm trying to cover is how interconnected we as humans are. And I wanted to depict that through the story of food. Because when we eat something, it might not have been, used. The dish itself might not be using the same ingredients which we've grown locally. We might have borrowed from somewhere else, and it might have a lot of connections to different parts of the world, and it has got long history as well. So I would like to show that, and also I wanted to go to in the next session. I would like to go to one level deeper as well to show how the human race itself, the Homo sapiens, actually traveled from Africa to different parts of the world to show that how closely connected we are, instead of saying that we are different people with borders. We should say we all are one. So this is the aim of my session in two weeks. So a little bit about me. I'm Cinoj. I was actually born and brought up in a place called Chimbichura in Pishu in Kerala. So I just wanted to show there's a migration path of mine, which I wanted to call migration path for obvious reasons, because I wanted to show in the coming sessions the migration of the human race itself. So when I was a kid, I was growing up in Chembichra. Then I moved to a different place. I mean, it's a bigger place called Thrissur. And then for my work, I moved to a further bigger place called Trivandrum in Kerala itself. Then I moved to Delhi for my work. Then I came back to South again, to Bangalore. Then I moved to Amsterdam for my work. Then I came to Qatar in the Middle East, and currently I'm in Newcastle, UK. So one thing I would like to show here is if you take until Amsterdam and looking into the map, uh, can you infer something like, for example, from the place where I was born, Chimbichura, to Amsterdam, if there were no modern transportation methods, can you reach there from Chimbichura, where I was born, to Amsterdam? If you're looking at the map, it is definitely. If you look into the map, basically we can walk from Chimbichura to Amsterdam. So it will take some time, but of course you can actually walk down there. So this is the one of the reasons I wanted to show that I wanted to call it as a migration path. If you look into the history of human race, probably they might have walked kilometers and kilometers from one place to another place to reach, and they might have reached different routes as well, the inland routes as well as the coastal routes. So the same thing can be inferred from this map itself. I could have actually take, or a person can take a coastal route or inland route. So this is my migration path. Uh, so when I was actually moving from one place to another place, what I might have taken along with me. So if someone is actually moving from one place to another, do you take something with you? Probably you might take a lot of things with you. First of all, yourself, then probably a little bit of culture and your food habits. So I'm going to show you here what I have taken. Right. When I was traveling from places to places, the one thing which I was carrying was coconut. As I was born in Kerala, and we were so much attached to the coconut. And one thing I was carrying was coconut and coconut products. So whether it is a raw coconut and also the machine to basically to scrape the coconut, a grated coconut, or one of the prime thing which we always carrying was the coconut oil. So when I was thinking about my journey and things which I was carrying, I was thinking it might have been happened to the people from the history as well when they were moving places or when they were migrating from one place to another. They might have been carrying some of the things which they were already possessing. It can be their food because when they were the main thing they wanted to survive was food. So probably they might have taken some of the food which they were used to eat along with them when from one place to another. So, and I, as a Keralite, probably everyone loves sadhya. And when you look into this particular sadhya, what what is the main ingredient? What is the prominent ingredient you can see in this? There are many dishes on this plantain leaf, but what is the prominent ingredient? If you actually look into it,
Rice.
90% of all these dishes actually uses coconut.
Yeah, Rishikesh had written that in the chat.
Sorry.
The chat Rishikesh wrote that topic.
Okay, I can't see the chat. Let me just open it as well. Okay, yes, Rishikesh, coconut. But do you know why we are having so much of influence on coconut, even on the sadhya items we are having? Majority of these items has coconut as an ingredient. Why? Ample availability by alpha. Yes, local produce. Okay, that's correct. Land of coconuts is Kerala. Yes. Okay, Rishikesh. So, but how can we actually confirm that the land of coconuts and it was a local produce? I mean, historically, do we have any evidence that it was locally available, or did someone brought coconuts to Kerala? Do we have any evidence to that? Let's look into that. But also, if you look into the ingredients we used for the dishes to prepare sadhya, are all the ingredients locally available or locally grown? Can you identify at least one ingredient which is not locally produced or it was brought by someone else outside Kerala? Anyone? Any one ingredient? Any one ingredient which was not locally available, or you know that it was not from the Indian subcontinent? Okay, I'll give you beetroot. Okay, that's right. Beetroot, yes, carrot. Okay, Rishikesh. So not one, many. So not only, the sadhya, which we call it is an authentic of Kerala. It is not really, yes, chili as well, Rishikesh. So there are so many things which are not locally produced. So with that note, let me just go to my next slide. I just wanted to introduce a chef called Chef Joman Kuriakos. He's working as a chef in Hotel Lalit in London. And we already saw that for the sadhya, the main ingredient is coconut. And he wanted to say something about coconut as well. So let's hear from him. And one of the questions I asked was whether the coconut was locally produced, I mean, locally available, or someone else brought it to Kerala. So let's hear from him what he wanted to share with us. And by the way, this is one of his dish. I mean, it is a traditional Kerala dish as well. It is cherubaya curry, cherubaya kanya. It's a porridge basically. So this is one of his dishes he actually made, and he elevated it as well using some shallots pickle. Okay, so let's hear from Chef Jomon.
ഹലോ നമസ്കാരം, ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്വന്തം ഷെഫ് ചോമൻ. എല്ലാവരും സൗഖ്യത്തോടെ ഇരിക്കുന്നു വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നു. ഞാൻ ഒരു കാര്യം പറയാനായിട്ടോ വന്നത് ആക്ച്വലി തേങ്ങ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കോക്കനട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നാളികേരം, നമ്മുടെ നാട് തന്നെ അറിയപ്പെടുന്ന കേരവൃക്ഷങ്ങളുടെ നാട്, അങ്ങനെയാണ് കേരളം എന്ന പേര് വീണത് തന്നെയാണ് സങ്കല്പം. അതായത് ട്രോപ്പിക്കൽ ക്ലൈമറ്റിൽ വളരുന്ന ഒരു 4500ഓളം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 5000ഓളം വർഷം പഴക്കമുള്ള ഒരു വൃക്ഷമാണ് ഈ നാളികേര വൃക്ഷം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഒരിക്കലും നമ്മളെല്ലാം അതായത് സൗത്ത് ഏഷ്യൻ പാർട്ടിൽ നിന്നൊക്കെ ട്രാവൽ ചെയ്ത് അവർ മർച്ചൻസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വ്യാപാരികൾ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് നട്ട ഒരു വൃക്ഷമാണെന്നാണ് അതിൻ്റെ ഹിസ്റ്ററിയൊക്കെ പറയുന്നതെങ്കിലും നമ്മൾ വളരെ പുരാതന കാലം മുതൽ അതിൻ്റെ എല്ലാ ഫോമുകളും, അതായത് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്ന കൽപ്പക വൃക്ഷം എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ്. അതായത് അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു സാധനവും നമുക്ക് വേസ്റ്റായിട്ട് കളയുന്നില്ല. അതിൻ്റെ എല്ലാ സാധനങ്ങളും, അതായത് ഈർക്കിൽ മുതൽ അതിൻ്റെ നാര് മുതൽ അതിൻ്റെ വേര് വരെ എല്ലാ സാധനങ്ങളും നമ്മൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ്. അതിപ്പോൾ ഫുഡായിട്ടാണെങ്കിലും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ക്രാഫ്റ്റായിട്ടാണെങ്കിലും അതും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്താ പറയുക റിച്വൽസിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമാണ്. അതായത് ഹിന്ദു കൾച്ചറിൽ റിച്വൽസിൻ്റെ ഒഴിച്ചുകൂടാൻ പറ്റാത്ത വലിയ ഭാഗങ്ങളിലൊന്നാണ് തേങ്ങ, അതിൻ്റെ തെങ്ങും പൂക്കല എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്നത് തന്നെ. അപ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ മിങ്കിൾ ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളൊരു സാധനമാണ് ഈ തെങ്ങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. നമുക്ക് ആക്ച്വലി ഈ തെങ്ങിന്, അതായത് കോക്കനട്ടിന് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു പേര് വീഴാൻ കാരണം തന്നെ ഒരു പോർച്ചുഗീസ് വേർഡായ കൊക്കോ എന്ന വാക്കിൽ നിന്നാണ് തേങ്ങയ്ക്ക് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കോക്കനട്ടിന് കോക്കനട്ട് എന്ന പേര് വീണത്. അതായത് ഈ കൊക്കോ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ സ്കൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തലയോട്ടി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തല എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ള അർത്ഥം വരുന്ന ഒരു പദമാണ് പോർച്ചുഗീസിലെ കൊക്കോ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ തേങ്ങയ്ക്ക് ഈ 3 മുഖം ഇങ്ങനെ ഇരിക്കുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു മുഖത്തിൻ്റെ ഷേപ്പ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു തലയോട്ടിയുടെ ഷേപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാകുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് കൊണ്ടാണ് അതിന് കൊക്കോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കൊക്കോനട്ട് എന്ന പേര് വരാൻ തന്നെ കാരണം. ഇപ്പോൾ തേങ്ങ എടുത്താലും അതിൻ്റെ പല ഫോമാണ് നമ്മൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഇപ്പം അതായത് വൺ ഓഫ് ദ ഗ്രേറ്റ് ഇൻഗ്രീഡിയൻ്റ് ആണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ കോണ്ടിനെൻ്റൽ കിച്ചണിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ യൂറോപ്യൻ കിച്ചണിലൊക്കെ നോക്കി ക്രീം എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത് എന്നതുപോലെ തന്നെയാണ് കോക്കനട്ട് മിൽക്ക്, അതായത് നമ്മുടെ ഭാഗങ്ങളിൽ, അതായത് സൗത്ത് പാർട്ടുകളിൽ നമ്മൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പം നാളികേരം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തേങ്ങ നമ്മൾ സ്വീറ്റായും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സേവറിയായും ഒരുപോലെ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെടുന്ന ഒരു ഇൻഗ്രീഡിയൻ്റ് ആണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഇപ്പം അതിന് ഒരുപാട് ഫോമുകളാണ്. അതാണ് അതിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ മഹാത്മ്യം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് തന്നെ. അതിപ്പോൾ വെളിച്ചെണ്ണയായി, ഡ്രൈ കോക്കനട്ടായി, ഡെസിക്കേറ്റഡ് കോക്കനട്ടായി, കോക്കനട്ട് പീരയായി, കോക്കനട്ട് സ്ലൈസ് ആയിട്ട്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്താ പറയുക, കോക്കനട്ട് പൗഡറായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യും. ഇപ്പം പുതിയൊരു സാധനം മാർക്കറ്റിൽ അവൈലബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ളത് ഇൻസ്റ്റൻറ്റ് ചാർക്കോൾ എന്ന് പറയും. അതായത് ഫുഡ് കളറിലേക്ക്, അതായത് ഫുഡിലേക്ക് ആഡ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടുള്ള ചാർക്കോൾ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കറുത്ത കളർ ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഫുഡ് കളർ. അത് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ ചിരട്ട കത്തിച്ചാണ്, അതിൽ നിന്ന് പ്രോസസ്സ് ചെയ്താണ് ആ കളർ പോലും ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പം അതൊരു പുതിയ സാധനമാണ് മാർക്കറ്റിൽ. ഒത്തിരി അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജ് ഉള്ള, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തേങ്ങയ്ക്ക് ഒരുപാട് ഗുണവിശേഷങ്ങളുള്ള ഒരു ഇൻഗ്രീഡിയൻ്റ് ആണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ അതിനൊരു ചെറിയ ഡ്രോബാക്ക് ഉള്ളതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഹൈ ഇൻടേക്ക് ഓഫ് ഫാറ്റ് ആണ്.
So, I hope you got some idea about coconut. But one thing I just wanted to add was he was mentioning that coconut was coming from Southeast Asia 4,500 years ago. I'll look into that in a little bit more detail to learn whether it was locally available years before. Before that, Rishikesh was actually mentioning that Kerala is land of coconuts. Is it really land of coconut? I'm showing some of the pictures here. So can you identify the pictures of where it is? So if you just unmute yourself and say, you can guess. Picture number one, do you know where can that be? Which part of, whether it is Kerala or which part of Kerala, or whether it's part of India or any other countries? Any guesses? Anyone?
Sri Lanka?
Yes, exactly, Alpha. Alpha. That is Sri Lanka. Yeah. So Sri Lanka has got very same tropical climate as Kerala, and it is exactly same as Kerala. So this picture is taken from Kerala, means from Sri Lanka, but maybe we might think it is Kerala or another part where a lot of coconut is grown. So anyone can guess number two? Picture number two. There is a clue as well. If you look into the picture, maybe you can identify that this is probably not from the Indian subcontinent. Looking at the picture, looking at the people. So that is the clue. So if, okay, Thai, yes, who's that? Exactly, Miriam and Sadisha, and that's from Thailand. So there are two countries we actually identified apart from Kerala. Okay, they grow coconut as well. And what about number three? Any guess on number three?
Tamil Nadu.
Wow, how did you get that? Exactly, that picture is from Tamil Nadu. So what I just wanted to share something at this point. Basically, when I was a kid, when I was studying in my high school, I think that was my first out of Kerala trip. So when I was a student, I always had this thought in my mind. I was thinking only Kerala is growing coconut, because we learn in school it's Kerala is land of coconut trees and the abundance of coconut everywhere. And in my mind, it was that no other place, as soon we cross the border, we might not see coconuts. Then I was actually traveling to Mysore for a school trip. Then for the first time, I realized, oh, it's not the case. Even outside Kerala, coconut trees is grown, and it is commercially, they are growing commercially. So this is basically number three is where coconut trees are grown, and it is kind of a commercial site where they grow it. And what about number four?
Kerala.
Any other guesses?
Is it Gujarat?
No.
Lakshadweep.
No. Rishikesh says Mali, not Mali. It's very difficult because it looks very similar because I have not given any clue also in that picture. Philippines, Jharkhand, Philippines, no, none of them are correct. Okay, so this picture, the fourth picture is from, okay, I'll give you a clue now. It is from a Middle Eastern country. Do you believe that Middle East grows coconut?
Lala.
Oman.
Exactly. Oman, Rishikesh is Oman. This picture is from Salalah. So even the Middle East has got coconut, and it's very similar to Kerala. Looking at this picture, probably you not believe that this is from a Middle East. So have you ever heard about a story? I mean, I was just thinking about why this particular place in the Middle East has got a lot of coconut trees. Um, and I was reading about it, and history says probably means coconut arrived there through floating. So that is one of the things, but also through the traders. GrainEd says Calicut and Salalah used to have trade relationships. Yes, there were trade relationships, and there is a specific story um, where one of the king went to Makkah. Do you know who was that? And he died while he was in Salalah.
Chairman Perumal.
Exactly. So I was also thinking then when Chairman Perumal was actually traveling to Makkah along with the Arab traders from Calicut to Makkah, and he was traveling through Salalah, through Oman. So probably he might have taken his favorite food items with him as well. So one of them probably might have been coconut, and also in Salalah you can see a lot of um, banana plantains as well. It's very similar to Kerala. So he might have taken a lot of things with him when he traveled to Makkah. As I was mentioning in the beginning, that I was carrying some of the stuff which I really like, which were part of my life. So he might have taken it as well. And that might be one of the reasons as well. Salalah has got a lot of things which we normally see in Kerala. Okay, so if you look at the map, you can see that sea distance between Salalah and in Calicut is short. Actually, yes. So it might be if you just sail straight, you might reach Salalah. Um, okay, so now you have seen pictures of coconut trees from different places. Do you still believe that Kerala is the land of coconut? We call it, and we have to believe it. And one of the things which I wanted to add here is, um, apart from what Chef Jomo was mentioning about the migration of coconut and the travel path, I just wanted to show something a bit more detail about it. So when you look into the history, so this is the migration path of coconut. As the chef was mentioning that it was basically cultivated initially in Southeast Asia. But at the same time, it was cultivated in the Indian subcontinent, Sri Lanka, and Lakshadweep as well. So these were the two prominent places, or these were the only two places which where coconut was cultivated historically. And if you look into this map, it shows how coconut was traveling from these places to different parts of the world. Why I wanted to show this was um, one of the main ingredients which we Keralites use in our cooking. It's not only part of our cuisines, but now it is part of world cuisine. It is through cultural exchange, through the food. And we impacted basically them. We affected their culture, their food culture, and also whoever actually came to Kerala or India or any other parts as traders and settled, we might have impacted their food culture and we adapted from them as well. So I'll look into that in the coming slides. But if you look into the migration path of coconut here, there are there are two different paths you can see. One is traveling to the east and traveling to the west. And so one of the studies, DNA studies of the coconut also shows that there are two different varieties were found. There are only two varieties of coconuts found. That is one from the Indian subcontinent and another one is from the southeastern part. And what happened was from the Southeast Asian part, the Austronesians, they took the coconut to Madagascar, for example, to this part through as part of their trade. So it traveled from this place to um, they traveled to they traveled from here to here Madagascar. So this is one of the traveling path where coconut started growing here and towards Seychelles and surrounding countries. And also the Austronesians actually took that from here to the um, to Panama, for example. So this is another part. So you can see that from this coastal areas started growing coconuts because of this movement. And another party who took coconut from Indian subcontinent was the European traders, basically Portuguese. They were taking it from subcontinent, basically, plus the Sri Lanka. They were traveling to Africa, and from there they went towards Brazil and to the Caribbeans. So this is how the coconut reached Caribbean and Brazil's next. Okay, so the coconut which you see in this part, the Caribbean, is basically Indian subcontinent coconuts. But on the other side of the continent, you see different variety, which is the Southeast Asian variety. So there are two different varieties which you see in the world. And also, if you look into this part, this is the Arab traders. The Arab traders actually took the coconut from the Indian subcontinent towards Africa, basically the Egypt and etc. And also maybe they have taken this to the Salala, which is almost here. This is kind of Salala. And I was actually reading the Egypt, they started importing coconut in 85 AD, and they had a lot of coconut groves basically. So that is by the influence of Arab traders. So this is in general the migration path of coconut. There are two different varieties. One is from the Indian subcontinent, and another one is from the Southeast Asian parts. So, okay. So what I wanted to say at this point is, as opposed to what Chef Jomon was mentioning, the coconut was not coconut didn't arrive from Southeast Asia to Indian subcontinent, but it was already there. And Rishikesh was mentioning why we do have a lot of coconut in our cuisines. It's because the availability, and it was locally available all the time. Okay. If you have any questions or any comments, please do. I just wanted to have a discussion rather than I'm talking about it. So probably you might know much more about it. Anything to add? Anyone? So you saw that basically the traders or the traders basically was taking one ingredient. I just wanted to show as coconut as one ingredient. They were taking it from one place to another place, and they might have impacted the food culture of that place. And one thing I wanted to show at this stage itself, when they arrived for trade to Kerala or India, any other places, they might have impacted our food culture as well. So do you remember who were the traders who came to India or Kerala, or who were involved in the trade or taking the coconut from subcontinent to other places?
Portuguese,
Yes.
Arabs,
Arabs, Portuguese, yes.
Chinese,
Sorry.
Chinese,
What was that again, Bicharan?
Chinese.
Chinese, okay. Okay, so there are a lot of trade influences on us, and there's a lot of settlement in Kerala as well. So their food habits probably might have changed, and we might have adapted from them, or we might have given them something. So I just wanted to show some of the food items which is using coconut in different forms. So you can see, as Rishikesh was mentioning, that Nulputtu and Teng Pal is the first one. Yes, Ada is the second one. Yes, exactly. So I'm showing basically three different food varieties, and all these has is use all these are using three different forms of coconut. So the first one, it is the coconut milk, and in the second one it is the grated coconut, and the third one you can see that we are using sliced coconut. So in different forms of coconut, and these food items might have been introduced at different stages in the history. As you can imagine that probably Ada was existing and for a long time, and when before the noodle putter or the because it needed some kind of devices to make it, so Ada might have been the earliest one existing, and also uh, the third one I'm showing is the beef fry with sliced coconut. That might have been the newest edition. And this might have been arrived when the traders arrived and they introduced meat to the vegetarian people of the subcontinent. Okay, so these are some of the food which I wanted to show in different eras, and we were using it in different forms. Now I'm coming to the fusion, because how when the settlement happened, like when the traders came and when they started settling in Kerala, they might have started using our ingredients. And in this particular session, I'm only concentrating on the coconut, so I'm just trying to show some of the dishes which they used or they fused along with the coconut, different varieties of coconut, different forms of coconut, to their existing food. So what I wanted to show is, before going to that particular information, how does fusion happens? Do you know how a fusion food happens? From your, probably you might have fused something and you came up with a different variety of food. So do you have any experiences of bringing up a new fusion food? Or do you know how a fusion food gets invented? Anyone?
Taking the best of two cuisines and mixing it. So from personal experience, I can tell, instead of masala dosha, I make paneer dosha. I
Yeah,
stuff it with some paneer instead of the aloo stuffing that is there usually used.
yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly. And this is one of the one way of actually fusing the food. Basically, there are two ways. I would say there are two ways we can actually make a fusion food. Either you design the food, say that okay, I'm going to make this food, and I choose the ingredients wisely from, and I plate it accordingly. So there is a design element involved in it, but at the same time, second way is we actually gather something which is already available there and mix it together. So without knowing that we are making something fusion. So there are two ways we can make it. So the one which I'm showing here, this is, can you identify what is that? The picture, looking at the picture. Okay, Miriam says using leftovers. Yes, that is also one great way of fusing, preparing fusion food. Yeah, and that exactly happened here as well in this dish I'm showing here, using the leftovers.
Is it some fish fillet with some chamandi?
Exactly. It is salmon. It is a salmon still fried with normal coconut chutney. So I came up with this idea because I wanted to have fish for lunch. Then I made the fish. Then I realized I do not have any sauce to go with. Then I had dosha in the morning and I had leftover chutneys, and I tried that. So that it's kind of an invention of a new taste bud. it was invention of something new for my taste buds, and it tasted really good. So this is how one way of this is one way of actually preparing fusion food. And if you think, probably people might have done in historically the same way. When Portuguese first arrived, Vasco da Gama arrived in 1490 in Kapad in Connecticut. He came to the shore and he might have met the king, and king might have invited him to his house and served him tea or some snack. And after that, Vasco da Gama might have asked the king to visit his house or the place where we're staying or the ship. And he might have offered him some processed meat. And when actually his processed meat stock was, kind of depleted, Vasco da Gama or the Portuguese, they were forced to try some local ingredients and mix together with their food. So historically, I think people might have done similar techniques to bring up new food and integrate and exchange the culture through food. So now I'm going to show you probably something which you can try this evening, which is kind of a fusion. Before that, this one, can you guess what this, which is a very famous Kerala dish as well, which we use in Sadhya as well. But it's fused. With the same ingredient used in different form. This dish, the basic form of this dish is actually one of the ingredients in Sadhya.
Is it tertiary that has been put together?
Yes, actually the pumpkin, from the pumpkin, yes. So this dish is made by Chef Jomon. He actually served in his hotel as well, Lalit. Okay, so can you see that?
അപ്പം നമ്മൾ വളരെ സുലഭമായിട്ടൊന്നും കാണുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പോലും നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം പൊങ്ങ്, അതായത് സ്പ്രൗട്ടഡ് കോക്കനട്ട്, അതായത് ഇപ്പം തെങ്ങ് വളരാനായിട്ട് എടുക്കുന്ന തേങ്ങയ്ക്കുള്ളിലുള്ള സാധനമാണ് സ്പ്രൗട്ടഡ് കോക്കനട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പൊങ്ങെന്ന് പറയും. അപ്പം അതുവരെ അത്ര ടേസ്റ്റിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു സാധനങ്ങളും കളയാനില്ല. അപ്പം എനിക്ക് റീസെൻ്റ്ലി എനിക്കൊരു പൊങ്ങ് കിട്ടിയിരുന്നു തേങ്ങയ്ക്കകത്ത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ എങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ, ഞാൻ UK യിലാണ് താമസം, അപ്പം നമുക്കിവിടെ ഇതൊക്കെ കിട്ടാൻ വളരെ വിരളമാണ്. റീസെൻ്റ്ലി ഒരു 3-4 ദിവസം മുമ്പേ ഞാനൊരു കടയിൽ ചെന്നപ്പോൾ അവിടെ കരികിരിക്കുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അന്നേരം തന്നെ ഞാൻ ആ കടക്കാരനിൽ നിന്ന് തന്നെ വെട്ടിമേടിച്ച് കുടിച്ചു. കാരണം അത് നമുക്ക് അത്രയ്ക്ക് എന്താ പറയുക, നമുക്ക് റിഫ്രഷിംഗ് ആണത്. ഒത്തിരി നോസ്റ്റാൾജിയ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒത്തിരി മെമ്മറീസ്, അതായത് നമ്മുടെ അപ്പച്ചന്മാർ, അമ്മച്ച അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മുത്തച്ഛന്മാരുടെയൊക്കെ ഓർമ്മകൾ വരെ തിങ്ങി നിറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഇൻഗ്രീഡിയൻ്റ് ആണ് നമുക്ക് ഈ തേങ്ങ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കരിക്കിൻ വെള്ളം എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഞാനൊരു ചെറിയ റെസിപ്പി നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇതിലൂടെ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്താം. ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും ചമ്മന്തി ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നതാണ്. അപ്പം ഹീറ്റ് അധികം, അതായത് ഒട്ടും എന്താ പറയുക, തീയില്ലാതെ തന്നെ നമുക്ക് ഉണ്ടാക്കാവുന്ന ഒരു വലിയ ഡിഷാണ് ചമ്മന്തി. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ തേങ്ങാ ചമ്മന്തി എല്ലാവരും കഴിക്കുന്നത്, അതായത് ആഴ്ചയിലൊക്കെ, നാട്ടിലുള്ളവർ ആഴ്ചയിൽ ഒരു 2 അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 3 ദിവസങ്ങൾ തേങ്ങാ ചമ്മന്തി കൂട്ടാതെ ചോറുണ്ണാത്തവരാണ് എല്ലാവരും, അല്ലേ? അപ്പം നമുക്ക് തേങ്ങാ ചമ്മന്തിയിൽ ഒരു യുണീക്ക് ഐറ്റം കൂടെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഗ്രീൻ പീസും കൂടെ ആഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് എങ്ങനെ ചമ്മന്തി ഉണ്ടാക്കി നോക്കാമെന്നൂടെ നമുക്കൊന്ന് കണ്ടു നോക്കാം. ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ തേങ്ങാ ചമ്മന്തിക്ക് വേണ്ട ഐറ്റങ്ങൾ ഇതൊക്കെ തന്നെയാണ്. കുഞ്ഞുള്ളി, പച്ചമാങ്ങ, പച്ചമുളക്, ഗ്രീൻ പീസ്, കറിവേപ്പില, ഇതൊക്കെയാണ്. നമ്മൾ ഗ്രീൻ പീസും കോക്കനട്ടും ഒരേ അനുപാതത്തിലാണ് എടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്, അതായത് ഓരോ കപ്പ് വീതമാണ് രണ്ടും എടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. ബാക്കിയുള്ളത് നമുക്ക് ടേസ്റ്റ് അനുസരിച്ച്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പുളി കൂടുതൽ വേണ്ടവർക്ക് പച്ചമാങ്ങ കൂടുതലിടാം, എരി കൂടുതൽ വേണ്ടവർക്ക് പച്ചമുളക് അല്പം കൂടുതൽ ചേർക്കാം. പിന്നെ അതിനകത്തിൽ ഉപ്പ് വേണമെങ്കിൽ, പച്ചമുളക് ഇല്ലാത്തവർക്ക് കുരുമുളക് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പച്ചക്കുരുമുളക് കിട്ടുമെങ്കിൽ അതും ഇതിന് വളരെ ബെസ്റ്റാണ്. അപ്പം ആവശ്യത്തിന് ഉപ്പും കൂടി ഇട്ട് ഒരു മിക്സിയുടെ ജാറിൽ നല്ലപോലെ അരച്ച് വെള്ളം തൊടാതെ പേസ്റ്റായിട്ട് എടുത്താൽ നല്ല ഒന്നാന്തരം ഗ്രീൻ പീസ് കോക്കനട്ട് ചമ്മന്തി വിത്ത് മാംഗോ. അസാധ്യ ടേസ്റ്റാണ് ഇതിനെ. കഞ്ഞി കുടിക്കാൻ, ഒരല്പം ചോറുണ്ണാൻ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ വീറ്റ് ദോശ ഉണ്ടാക്കി ദാലിൻ്റെ കൂടെ കഴിക്കാനൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട് അന്യ ടേസ്റ്റാണ്. അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരും ഉണ്ടാക്കി നോക്കുക, എന്നിട്ട് അഭിപ്രായങ്ങൾ പറയാം. അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരും സ്റ്റേ അറ്റ് ഹോം, പഴമക്കാർ പറയുന്ന പോലെ സൂക്ഷിച്ചാൽ ഒരിക്കലും ദുഃഖിക്കേണ്ടി വരില്ല. താങ്ക് യു ഫോർ വാച്ചിങ്. ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്വന്തം ഷെഫ് ജോമോൻ.
So, Tessie ma'am, so I think probably you can try this for the evening as well.
I reached my kitchen. I will make it.
Thank you. So I just wanted to show dinner is sorted. Yes. Rishikesh was mentioning that he ate punga many times. Okay, yeah. So basically, what I wanted, why did I show this was historically people might have used the same method to bring up new dishes, and that is how the cultural amalgamation through food might have happened as well. Especially when the traders came and settled in Kerala, for example, or any other places, they cannot stock up the food which they were used on a day-to-day basis when they were in their own places. They cannot stock so many of items. When they come to a new place, they have to adapt to the new culture, new food culture. So how do they do? They have to start using the locally available ingredients. So this is a great example where we as Keralites or Indians were coconut is a great part of our kitchen. And when it comes to British, the green peas is one of the great ingredient, and they use it quite often. And so these two things, which are part of two different cultures, are fusing together to mixing up to bring up a new dish. So this is, I think, a simple thing, but it might have happened a lot in the history to, amalgamate two different cultures. So my next question to you is basically is mixing it together, are we just mixing the ingredients or culture? As probably I just want everyone to just speak up your views. What do you think? Or what's your view about it? Is it mixing up of culture or ingredients alone? Any yes, wheat upma with this green chili, green chutney will be good. Okay. Yeah, so that is another invention basically. So anyone want to talk about anything here?
Yeah, I would like to say something
Yeah.
here. Yeah, I think one mixing together culture and ingredients. I think ingredients in my case, like I'm a Gujarati who has moved to Kerala for a few years, lot of years now actually. So yes, mixing of ingredients. I see myself using a lot more spices, the native spices that you get there, even in the North Indian cuisine now. But another thing I really felt takes an overpowering importance is also convenience. Uh,
Hmm.
so, like in Gujarat, when we used to use coconut, we used to break it and spend an hour to take the flesh out of the coconut and all. Now I see my relatives asking me for the coconut scraper from Kerala when I travel to Gujarat.
All right.
So and they have found it to be much more easier, rather than taking a knife and trying to take
Yeah.
it out. So yeah, I think culture definitely passes on that way. Ingredients too, but then there is something, ease of life and convenience also is increasingly taking more importance in this.
Yeah. That's a great point. So actually you're speaking from your own experience, then it clearly shows that how two different cultures are mixing together and at the same time adapting something which is convenient for them to use that particular ingredient in a different, I mean, in a better way. So this is what was happening in the history as well. I just wanted to show some of the historical importance of these ingredients or the food itself. So um, when basically trade was happening, we cannot actually go back to long back in the history because it is so vast. So when we consider trade as kind of a benchmark, and during that time, subcontinent were basically trading with various parties. So we had traders from, for example, in the Tamil literature, they were talking about Yavanas. So basically, they are Greeks, Egyptians, and Rome. So we had trade relationship with them from the history, long time before. I mean, in the BCs. And also, it's believed that during 85, 580, um, traders arrived. Not only traders, basically there was a big incident happened in 580. Anyone knows about what is the importance of 580? It might be a myth, or we are not sure who arrived, whether the story is accurate, but 580 is an important year in the history of, for example, Kerala. Any students or anyone knows why it is important? 580. Sorry, not 580. 50 to 80. It is something related to the religion.
Saint Thomas.
Yes, exactly. So it's believed that Saint Thomas arrived Kerala in 50 to 80. Whether it is true or not, so it has. We do have a lot of influence from the religion, from the religious aspects. We do have a lot of influence on our food. So when they arrived, there were different. Which do you know which port they arrived, or which was the major port during that time in Kerala? So as I think everyone knows about Kapad, Calicut one, where the Portuguese arrived. So before that, one of the major trade port was in the central Kerala. Yes, GrainEd says Musaris. Yes, Musaris was the port, major port at that time for the trade, and as well as it's believed that St. Thomas, if he arrived in Musaris in AD 52. And also it's believed Egyptians and also Arabs were trading from Musaris as well. So Musaris was the major trade port. They were, what it says is, what history says is, the Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians, they were trading with Kerala for, what was the main thing? You all know probably. They came to Kerala and they were trading one of the main ingredients, which is black in color. Pepper, the black pepper, yeah. And they were trading black pepper with gold, and so basically the black pepper is called black gold as well. So during that time, before the Portuguese arrived, there was trade happening with different parties, especially with Arabs, Greeks, and Romans, and they brought a lot of ingredients to us as well. So if you look into the Sadhya items, we do have one of the ingredients which one of the dishes which we use is the cabbage thoran. Cabbage is not at all from our subcontinent. It believed that that was brought by the Greeks when they were doing trade. It was so long ago. But now, without cabbage thoran, it is sadhya is incomplete. And probably we do have different versions of cabbage thoran. We will be using with coconut or without coconut. But that's a must. It's a must. Cabbage thoran is it's unavoidable one for the sadhya. And also, if you look into the other ingredients of the sadhya, for example, the runner beans. Runner beans. Do you know where the runner beans came from? So we use the pyrethrorin, right? That is also one of the main ingredient for our main dish for our sadhya. So runner beans. Anyone knows where the runner beans originated from? It's believed to be originated from North America. And when we were talking about Aviyal, do you know how Aviyal is made? I think everyone knows how it is. But one of the ingredients we use is, apart from coconut, is cumin seed. Cumin seed is coming from, it came from Egypt. And drumsticks, do you know where it came from? Drumsticks is believed to be a part of part of India as well, but it was up north in the Himalayas, and it came down to other places. And another ingredient which we use in most of the dishes now is, instead of black pepper. We give black pepper and we actually have something different. The green chilies. The green chilies, which is the origin of green chilies? Any idea about that? Anyone? I think you guys know about that. Rishikesh says Portugal. There is a reason why it is. Why I know that. Why do you say that Portugal? But it's not the origin. But Portuguese actually brought it because they were, yes, Brazil. It's from Brazil and Mexico. But the reason why we say it's, yes, Razana says Mexico, correct. So Portuguese had a lot of trade relationship with different countries around the world, and that is one of the reasons they could actually contribute a lot to our food culture, because they were traveling and they were bringing different ingredients from different places. So if you look into the history, they might have brought a lot of things to Kerala or different other places. So whenever they were traveling from, for example, from Americas to the Southeast Asia. They took ingredients from those places to wherever they were traveling. So green chilies they brought to us, and one of the things which we cannot avoid in Sadhya is pickle, right? Mango pickle or lime pickle. But how it happened actually? How it became? How we started pickling? All right, that also goes to Portuguese basically. Um, they introduced vinegar. So in vinegar was already available in India before Portuguese arrived. But when they introduced vinegar as a cooking ingredient, so what they were doing is like when they, yes, exactly, medium says preservation. So when they were traveling long distance, you know, so many days they have to be in the ship, etc. So they wanted to preserve food, so they were using vinegar for the preserving food, and they introduced that technique to Keralites, and we started, making pickles. So that is kind of the beginning of, you know, that is how they introduced and we started making it. And I was someone as mentioning initially that about the beetroot. When I asked about the beetroot, was actually introduced by the Egypt's Romans during that time when initially when they started trade. So many of the things which we actually see in the sadhya or the items which we actually think it is ours, it's not. But at the same time, we took something from others and we gave something else to them. So that was the exchange happened through food. So I just wanted to take one example, one particular example here, and wanted to talk about to show that how that exchange happened and the food actually evolved from one form to a different form. I'm not sure whether you can identify this ingredient, I mean, this dish. It might be very difficult, but I would like to still ask whether you can. This particular dish which I'm showing is related to juice. So this is one of the um, dish Jews eat even now, and it's one of the dish widely used in Israel. Any idea? Okay, so before it's a stew, yes, it's a stew, correct, exactly. The name of that stew is called sofrito. So that is a Jewish dish. I will explain how I through that particular dish how it evolved and how it is currently available in Kerala. Um, so what I wanted to say before that is like Jews, when they arrived. Do you know when Jews arrived in Kerala, for example? I do not know exactly when did they arrive, but they were existing. So one time when there are two different Jew communities arrived in Kerala. One was the Malabari Jews. There were the black ones, and there was white Jews. They came about 16th century, but the Malabari Jews came much before. During, for example, when the Romans and Egyptians were actually doing the trade, and they came to the Musaris port. But the white Jews, they came in 16th century, and they do have different. They don't really mingle, but they stay in different parts of Kerala. Um, but this particular dish is belonging to Paradeshi Jews, the white ones. Um, and this one is called um, sofrito, basically. It's a stew, as Alba was mentioning. So it is actually a stew sorted with potatoes, garlic, turmeric, and cardamom, and simmered in small volume of water. So that is how traditionally it's made. It's widely used in Israel even now. So in the traditional one, they use chicken, and they use turmeric, garlic, potatoes, and cardamom. So, and when I was looking into the current form of this particular stew in Kerala, the Jews are still using it, still making it, but they have added local ingredients to it. So what they have added to it, they added plantain, which is widely available to us. They added coconut milk, and also they added rice to it. So it became an elevated dish, but they started using ingredients which are locally available. So this is how a dish which was traditionally a Jewish dish, the Jewish still take it as part of their culture, but they elevated it with different ingredients. So it has gone to a different level. And also they add sweet potatoes now. I'm not sure why, but I think probably it is also locally grown in some part of Kerala. But main ingredients they added was the plantain and the coconut milk. So I took this particular dish because it has got coconut as in one particular form. Okay. So any questions or anything else you wanted to add? And together with that particular dish, I just wanted to show another picture. Anyone recognize this one? This one is also related to Jews. I wanted to show this because of the writing on that pillar. So this pillar is basically is in the Jewish street of Paravur, which is close to the Musaris, where Jewish initially came when they landed. So basically, the king was given them. Rishikesh's stew was by Judas. Okay. Okay. So this one is in the Jewish street in Paravur, which is very close to Musaris when they initially landed. So when they landed, they were, the king was given, them the authority to basically make a settlement, and they started living as a community, etc. So why this pillar is important to me, and why I wanted to show this to you is, for me, this shows a kind of cultural exchange. The writings on this particular pillar, which is in Hebrew, and also it says Irab, that means mixture and amalgamation, or mixture or amalgamation. So long time before, so many years before, when they erected this pillar, and now it is getting restored as part of the Musaris project. So long time before, they were thinking about this cultural amalgamation, and there was a word to describe it, and they knew that what they were doing, they were exchanging their cultures, they were making a settlement in a different place from their where they were, and they were actually exchanging, or they were living together with the other people. And so as part of that, they knew that what they were doing. And the dish which I showed from the Jewish community also shows that how they actually amalgamated into the local culture by elevating and introducing the ingredients which is locally available. So what I wanted to show, say is, now you have seen that there was one ingredient which is widely available in Kerala, and it traveled. I mean, not only in travel Kerala, but in the subcontinent. But I took Kerala as an example. But from there, it traveled to different parts of the world, and it became part of, it became part of the food culture of the people who actually came and settled in Kerala, and they use the ingredient in their food, and they culturally immersed. At the same time, what happened to the ingredient which traveled across oceans? Do you want to see what happened to that? So it's very clear that people who started living here and settled in Kerala, they started using the widely available coconut in their dishes. So that's very evident. But what happened to the coconut which traveled from Indian subcontinent and also Southeast Asia to South America, the Caribbeans, or to Africa? So this is one of the dish. Anyone knows about it? It is from Southeast Asia. For example, it can be, you can see this dish from Burma to, for example, to Japan, maybe. It is called chendol. So one of the main ingredients is basically coconut milk in this one. And they make some rice noodles as well. That is a green one. So they use the pandan leaves to make that green color. So this is one of kind of a street food in Southeast Asia. And what happened was trade has got a lot of influence on this as well. So when Dutch colonized, so for example, Indonesia, this was initially, this started, this particular dish was invented by Javanese people. And when Dutch colonized them, and they took to the places where they were traveling. And that is one of the dish. And this one, the next one, probably you can easily recognize. Richard, is it time?
No issues. Go ahead.
So anyone recognize this one, or it's very close to one thing which we Keralites have, and it's probably we eat this as part of a festival. I mean, in relation to a festival.
Is it something called Appam?
Not really. It's actually made of rice. Yes, you can see that.
Vishukkatta.
Exactly. It is very similar to Vishikata. Do you know where this come from then?
No.
It is a Sri Lankan dish. It is called kiribat, and it's very similar to our Vishikata, where we actually we eat that with jaggery sauce, right? The palm sugar. Okay, so the next one, I think it might be an easy one to recognize. It looks like curry. Okay, so this one is also from Southeast Asia. This is from Thailand, so then you know the name. It's a Thai red curry. So, I mean, you know that, in one of the pictures I showed initially, Thailand has got a lot of coconut as well. So they do have, I mean, the initial cultivation of coconut happened in Southeast Asia as well. So they have plenty of coconut. And in Thai cuisine, they use a lot of coconut as well. I mean, they change the colors. For example, red Thai curry, Thai red curry, green curry, orange curry. So basically, you do have different color combinations, and they uses coconut milk in their curries. So this is the red one. Another one. Sorry, I just wanted to show this to, I mean, basically to confirm that the coconut which traveled from two prominent places, which was originally cultivated, which traveled to different parts of the world, they're still using it, embraces that particular ingredient as part of their culture, and that's part of their food culture. So this particular one, this might be a little bit difficult to identify. Maybe it's called beju. It is cookie from Nigeria. So if you remember the migration path of coconut, when traders, the European traders from the Indian subcontinent, they took the coconut to the Africa and to the Nigeria, then they went to the South America. So this one is basically from the Nigeria. This is kind of an, and also you can see that from there, from the Africa, the Portuguese went to in South America. So it's also famous in Brazil. So this is beju. And so it has got two ingredients mainly. One is coconut and also one of the other thing which Portuguese introduced to Kerala, which is kind of a staple food in our we in our in our culture now. Can you identify that the ingredient which Portuguese introduced to us, which is kind of a staple now, and we eat that with beef or fish curry? Anyone?
Tapioca.
Exactly. So these are the two ingredients of that beju. And the next one, can you see that? Yeah. The next one is called tapado. That is from Guatemala. It's a seafood soup. It has got two ingredients other than the seafood. One is coconut milk and green banana. So that is a Guatemalan one, but similar dishes are available in that region with the coconut milk, the soup using coconut milk. Okay, and another one, the last one. I think this might be, some of you might identify this. I think, Tessie ma'am, probably you could identify that. Semolina cake. It is a semolina cake. Yes, exactly. Do you know where it is from? It is from Egypt. It's called actually basbousa. It's a traditional Egyptian one. So as previously I was mentioning that Egypt in 5 AD they were actually started importing coconuts to Egypt. So still they use coconut as an ingredient in their cuisine. And this is made using semolina, ghee, and shredded coconut. So these are some of the dishes which I would like to show you from different parts of the world, which uses coconut, and which also confirms that you know the coconut, even though it didn't really travel just for the sake of taking for that particular moment, but it was integrating to the culture, and throughout this period, they are still it is part of their own culture, and it's truly well integrated to it. Um, so there are two things which I wanted to show before I end this particular session today. So one of them is our Sadhya is back now. So what are the few things which you understood about the dishes or the ingredients which we see in this picture? Anyone add at least some of the things which you understood, or if you are not agreeing with me, please please raise your opinion as well. So what I would like to say here is world in a plantain leaf. This is what I would like to say. But do you agree, or if you're agreeing, why do you think so from the discussions we had today? Anyone? It's full of different crops from worldwide. Exactly, Rishikesh. Yes. So we discussed about yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Rishikesh. So there are different things which we actually see in the sadhya, in the plantain leaf, are coming from different parts of the world, and there are some grown locally. But for me, it is a world in the plantain leaf. The current sadhya which we see in this current form, it didn't start. I mean, it didn't do just like that. It was through years of cultural exchanges, um, living together with the different communities. A lot of exchanges from different traders, people from different parts of the world, or adapting to different cultures, adapting to the different cooking methodologies. So there are a lot of history behind every dish, probably, which we see in the current form. So I would like to say that it is a world in a banana leaf. And if you agree, why do you think that history is important? That is one of the points I would like to ask. So we were talking about history through some of the dishes, but why do you think history is important?
I would like to chime in there. I think for someone who's not, for me to be very frank, Sadhya is an epitome of how traditional food can get in Kerala. So it was a very insightful session to know, that there's like, it's actually an amalgamation of so many different cultures and all. It's not something that's absolutely native to Kerala. It keeps on still evolving. Like
Yeah,
we keep seeing different variations in the Sadhya as you travel from North Kerala to South Kerala. And
yeah,
I used to always think of it as, oh, they're not conforming to the Sadhya norms and all. But then now I know, that each province has its own peculiarities and all. And probably, like you said, it comes from the trade route, the kind of access that the traders had. Um, and I think to your question, like, is it like such a is it culture or what it is? I feel one, availability of ingredients has made a huge difference. The more access we had to
yeah,
different ingredients and all, that's the reason why it is still keeping on evolving. Now, as you say, history, probably now, the popular trend is to going back to basics, for good
yeah.
health, or eating local is being, advocated a lot. And also, I think history it has a lot of importance there, going back to what our grandmothers or forefathers used to have in terms of
Yeah.
food and all. So I think, yeah, history has a huge influence on these, and really going back to good health and all, it plays a great role there.
Thank you very much, Albert. It was really nice to hear that from you as well. So one of the things I just wanted to add is, like, I'm going to I mean, next session I will be adding more to the history, why history is important, and how how do we say, I mean, why I wanted to actually concentrate and say that it's not only ours, I mean, we as one community or one region. It's about world itself. I just want to show that because probably we might have originated from one single mother, and we all are cousins probably. So this is how it is. And what we currently see is we don't know that history. And what we are trying to do is we're actually fighting each other and saying that it's ours instead of saying that, we all are belonging to one. We do not have that kind of feeling if we do not really understand our history. So what I'm trying to do is in the next session, I just wanted to show that element. Where do we actually came from? Now in this session, we have seen basically the food we eat are coming from different places, and we adapted it and evolved it, and we said it's ours. It actually coming from different parts, and it is everyone's. So the same thing which I wanted to take one step further. And with that note, I just wanted to show you my final slide. Please note this, those who are coming for the next session. So we will be continuing our discussion on this one. So what it says is non-human communities of exceptional status relative to others. None are children of God or chosen people, unless all are. Nations as we understand them today are no older than a few centuries, and we all are interconnected, genetically, culturally, and historically, far more than we imagine. So in the next session, I wanted to continue on this particular paragraph, which I have shown here, which also gives us an insight um, of being together, understanding the history in much more detail, and embracing the differences and why the differences are there. If there are similarities, why it is there. So I'm just going to a little bit more detail there in the next session. So that is it from my side today. So is there anything which you wanted to discuss? Any questions? If I know the answer, I will. Otherwise, it's a discussion. So please contribute. And I just wanted to add to what Alpha was mentioning about the differences in Satya itself. From one place to another, it differs. So, for example, Aviyal itself, I really like the Aviyal from the central part of Kerala, from Thrissur, for example, originally from Thrissur, which is more. It's, I feel it doesn't have no watery content. Basically, it is very thick. But if you go to the south, it is more kind of gravy type a little bit. And so if you travel, you can see the different varieties or variations in Aviyal itself, in other dishes as well. So it evolves. It evolves, and also, historically, like humans evolved. So that is what I would like to show in the next one, and how that contributed to actually invent agriculture, and that became part of our life. That also helped us to actually have different eating habits, different cooking methods, etc., etc. So anything to add?